last one. Really good against the Weaver.
Yeah, but it's risky in the laning phase.
It's really greedy.
I think Liquid have an opening here with that early roam.
They do, yeah.
Okay. Alright, final thoughts?
I think Liquid are going to need this up. I'm going with the Enchantress again.
Yeah, like this time the roles are reversed. Liquid's gonna put on the aggression and NEWBEE needs to weather the storm. So I think Liquid's gonna take this one.
Okay, thank you very much to all three of our panelists. We'll hear more from them once more in the at the end of this particular game. Will it be the end of the series though? NEWBEE on the verge of making the grand final, or can Team Liquid make a comeback? Let's find out as we go back to our commentary team with Merlini and Toby1.
Thank you very much, Red. Yes, Merlini, we're back here for game number 2, NEWBEE versus Liquid. It feels a little greedy for the NEWBEE lineup, but luckily, kids of all ages get to enjoy this matchup.
Nothing gets this crowd roaring like a good game of Dota, so let's have it.
I would love to go to it. And here we go, game number 2, Team Liquid going up against NEWBEE. Will we actually see a deciding matchup, Merlini? It looks like Liquid are off to a good start draft-wise.
And NEWBEE with a surprise Shadow Shaman last pick when Chuan's Lion is getting first phase ban every game. This seems like an appropriate solution. They definitely needed the lockdown versus the Weaver.
Yeah, that was one thing we were talking about a lot. It's just the fact, like, NEWBEE, where do you find your stuns? Where do you find your control? You don't really have it. Like, normally with KP's heroes, you've got that big, like, AoE Ravage, you've got Crushes from Slatters, you've got all these things going to work. You don't really have it from him. You don't get it from the Juggernaut. You get it in a little bit from the Batrider.
However, Liquid's push is quite formidable, and their 5-man I think is superior to NEWBEE's, unless the Bristleback gets very, very farmed.
Maybe we should pause things.
And maybe that's where we should be, like, turning our attention. Like, what happens? How does NEWBEE ensure the laning phase?
And make sure that they have the Ancients available to them if they fall behind. This is a very common strategy that you'll see with the Bristleback in the offlane. It looks like they will be able to get that Sentry Ward dewarded.
No kills coming along with the D-wards for this game at least. But yeah, Matumberman, it still requires NEWBEE to come down there and have a quick little peek over for it.
Yeah, you just can't leave a Lycan unchecked, because he just buffs up your other lane so much when he has high levels of Howl. So I like NEWBEE's approach, always contest the Lycan.
The funny thing is too, like, because Kaka is coming down, more than likely he's going to walk off to the side, and they will, in fact, yeah, they see the Obs Ward now, the creep wave comes over.
Sometimes you like to wait a little bit just so you get, like, the double regen. Like, you can get Bristle, take some damage, and then you eat it with Wisp, and then you'll have, like, double regen. Or X regen.
He actually tangoed it straight from the start anyway, so he just wanted it gone so he can get to the lane, and then they push Matumberman straight out of lane. 4 Quill Spray stacks up from KP. Matumber's been forced out. Now, we've seen this storyline before. It happened only a couple of minutes ago in game number 1.
And Kaka missed a stack, actually, in that first one. He tried to drag it down, but it caught the corner of it right as he went there. It's much safer to stack to the left.
I want to keep my eyes on this bottom lane as much as I do want to watch that mid lane too. Fada versus Moo. Who can get the upper hand here? Difficult for Moo to initiate when you're going up against Spirit Siphon, but if there's enough sticky napalm charges, potentially you could actually see first blood happening there in the mid lane. While Kuro is taking on the same role that Chuan did before. Early Satyrs, he'll combo up with Mind Control, and they're just trying to make it so Chuan, who doesn't have any consumables, there's no health on him to work with, just has to hold back, and Hal's going to actually go for the, he already done it, he went for the early point up in the healing board. Difficult to keep that alive. In fact, now with a blast, Hal, he has to stop the spin. The damage physically is still there. Mind Control will take first blood against the safe lane Juggernaut.
They're getting a little bit greedy there. Nice creep skill coming out from Kuro to put the Juggernaut in that sort of situation.
And now Chuan, like, what do you even do? You say the laning phase is really weak for a Shadow Shaman, now you're really seeing it. And then you bring the Juggernaut back. At least Hal's got his spin, but there's a lot of physical damage, and because of the Enchantress army, there's a lot of sustain when they go behind the tower as well.
And mind control, as the Weaver generally has a tough time in the offlane, is just not a great matchup for him. But when you have a Wisp in the offlane, you only have two support, or one support in that safe lane, it's very easy for him to get level 2, and now he's already level 3.5. And once he gets that swarm up, it's going to be very difficult for his Juggernaut to survive, let alone the Shadow Shaman.
He drives towards mid, Jirak's going to boulder himself forward, waiting for the gank over there, but he is level 2, but Moon makes it towards the ancient area. Jirak can stay in hot pursuit. He's still ready to go again if possible, as the creep wave stays with Mewtwo. Kuro's going to rotate himself over. Chirax, yep, still not letting it go. Gets the kick off, boulder forward, slow down Mew. Farther now with a smooth siphon. Mew's going to go down. And Team Liquid, this time, they are the ones finding the advantage in the early game.
And Matamaman's doing A-okay in the bottom lane, 13 CS, or 14, just tied with the Bristleback, so NEWBEE gonna have to get some more stacks up if they want Bat Rider to be a participant in this game.
But that means you're going to pull people off the lane. Like, Chuan has to stop doing... Like, he's trying to throw the lane as much as he can, so Hao can fight and farm underneath his own tier 1 tower, which is kind of like, it's a catch-22, because then you just fight underneath your own tier 1 tower, but the Enchantress army can also just chase you in there.
So I think if Enchantress goes back to top, NEWBEE can do a lane swap and just throw Bristle up there, because what they want to do is just not die in the early game. They catch up their stacks, get the pink blink on the Bat Rider, and...
Well, exactly what you want to have happen, especially if that kick was able to connect, but it keeps sticking napalm charges up, making it difficult for Fada to keep the pressure on the Bat Rider.
And Kaka not really interested in healing up on Moo, and Moo's going to have a tough time regenning up without any rune access. But there's 3 stacks of the Ancient, so KP can take that as he desires, and Chuan really struggling for levels.
This is something that we see from NEWBEE, where KP gets majority of the farm, just because they make his lane so much better. Chuan, okay, he shackles to cancel off the tornado. However, there's a large amount of damage being done to him. And Wildwing will keep the chase going, and Chuan, he'll shock. He just wants the Wildwing dead, and it's gonna happen, but Chuan got a 17 HP to make it work. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Moo's gonna have a crack over. Fada dropping low with the help of Kaka. They find one, the Spirits out to maximum range. Kaka trying to reach Jirax, but then Jirax can also turn Kaka. He's gonna get trapped up. His tether is available. Goes all the way back over to Moo, but mind control's already here in the mid. Finds one. The kick was there from Jirax, but it's Moo with the lasso, holding mind control through the tier 1 tower, but with one more attack into the trees, is a double kill for mind control, giving him 3 out of the 4 kills the Team Liquid have claimed so far.
Superb movement by Team Liquid, throwing their 2 offlaners into that mid lane, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do some damage over here. And they just end up getting wiped.
It's that good rotation from Team Liquid. We were expecting, like, maybe NEWBEE to switch their lanes up, but in this case...
And now Kuro, I think, scouted out that stack. They're pinging it out right now. Don't really think they can take it, maybe with Swarm and Lycan at some point, but they ideally want to jack it. And looks like Kuro has walked it out with a sentry.
Yeah, so no more stacking at least.
Radiant's top tower.
Kaka's coming over. It's around that same time that he wants to stack it, so if Kuro backs up now, they won't realize that he's actually messed with it.
And then they might interrupt Kaka at the rune. He's taking a lot of damage from these ancient creeps.
But they're also looking at another target. It's Chuan, who's underneath the observer ward in the mid lane. Like, when the tornado's starting up from Kuro, you're keeping the supports away, you're keeping the creep wave out, and allowing Fada, who doesn't have exorcism yet, to inflict damage onto a tier 1 tower. With mind control as well, Shakushing himself across. He's in that narrow path, the fog of war, that NEWBEE just can't see anything.
And Liquid's approach is just completely avoid the Bristleback. The Bristleback Wisp is really strong. They're actually fighting, but without the stack available to them, without any heroes on in the Liquid bottom lane, yep, they're not really getting anything accomplished.
Nope, not until you hit maybe that level 6 over on the IO, or Bristleback is able to have enough stacks up that he does a heavy amount of physical damage into the tower. But this is still a level 6 Bristleback. It does mean he has the warpath available. And with the help of Kaka, he can just stand off. So they do get a decent trade-off. And this is the strength of Bristleback. Great during team fights, but it's this big burst of physical damage, which you're not always expecting. Until Matubberman tries to come for the kill, he sends the Wolf in. He actually finds Kaka over in the tree line. Kaka, he needs to tether himself out of here. He's gone in deeper with the Howl. He actually decides just to start the TP. The damage, they don't get there in time. NEWBEE will get away safely.
Ooh, nice play by Matama Man in
top
with.
lane, Hal's also taking considerable damage. He's already got that Scarab Beetle on him, but manages to break free underneath his own tier 1 tower. But this is mind control just posturing on that top lane and forces Hal all the way back to base.
Oh, and NEWBEE placed a sentry ward a little bit below their mid T2. They already got the D ward in the one in the lane, and it actually sees the one at the secret shop too, if they can get up there.
Lucky Ducks. Kaka will come over because he's going to be there for the stack as well. So he'll see the ward.
Structures are fortified.
That's nighttime. It's a little bit hard to see.
Funny thing is though, he still can't stack that sentry from the Radiant side. Is still in position. So no matter how hard he tries, he just cannot stack this Ancient.
And with daytime, he should be able to see it.
Looks like Chuan's preparing himself up on this top lane. Hal's coming in too. Omni Slash is available, but you've still got Nami there, and the T1 tower's already lost.
And KP kind of stranded out in this bottom lane, really wanting to get this tower. I don't think Liquid can defend this in time. Maybe at the knife from the wolves.
It looks like to be what they're attempting with the Quill Spray stack. Is a little bit harder. It will belong to KP. He'll get the last hit. Giving him some much needed money. Move. Hello top lane. Invis Rune. Right on top of mind control. Chuan's coming over. The Enchantress people find him out too. They hex up over on the creep. There's no central stop until now. But they walked in close to allow that to happen. And mind control just time-lapse off all of the damage.
Dang, Kuro, what a player. Right there with the Centaur.
Right place, right time.
Right Kuro. And now, just gotta farm up your stacks right now, NEWBEE. Moose still needs 600 gold until that Blink Dagger. And no sign of Bristleback. I guess we see the Buckler. Could be Vanguard and the Crimson Guard, which I think is actually very good versus Liquid's lineup. Heck is the standard.
So Kaka, you saw that one, man. He walked straight past the Observer instead of walking away
This is
from
an
it.
unusual one, though.
He's also tried to stack up the Ancients now 4 times, and finally just says enough is enough. Throw down a Sentry Ward, and he finds the Sentry in its last second.
I think they should take it out with the Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman really needs his level 6 so they can threaten some towers and some buff spells for their team fight. At this point, he's just very, very useless. Just a sitting duck with his shackles.
Well, he's going to try and play on this top lane. Walks in, the Sentry Ward's down, mind control, Shikuchi's up and away from the detection of Chuan. They're maybe hoping he'd go into the tree line.
And KP, is he going to get this stack off?
It's going to be close.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get it.
Well, the Lizards are backing up, and yeah, the Mud Golems actually got stuck, so no stack for him. Damn, they really need that burst damage to come in for the Bristleback. Because that's the burst farm, because that's his mech. Once the mech is there, the NEWBEE's team fight becomes a lot better, and they can start 4 to 5 manning, especially up against Exorcism. And until that point, they're probably just going to keep dodging.
But they're smoked. Move up. Moving up to try and control the dire jungle. Anticipating moves, gonna be there farming his Blink Dagger, especially after that failed lasso, but Hal might be in a little bit of trouble. Gonna have to have a sick play from the Earth Spirit though.
Yeah, Jirax needs to get this kick, and well, there's a Troll Trap, the silence, Hal, where's that spin? He can't get it off, the Centaur stop is perfect! And of all things to do the last point of damage, it was the Fist of the Mud Golem, which was the one to bring down the Jugger.
Jirax is spot on with his Earth Spirit play.
And now they even commit Exorcism. Fortification gets burned by NEWBEE on their tier 2.
It's under attack.
So I'll waste a little bit of time, but the result's still going to be the same. Team Liquid will take this tier 2 tower up in the top lane. They scan to make sure that NEWBEE is not coming to defend it at all. So there's no surprise smoke push up by NEWBEE.
Towers just died.
Yeah, they're playing around this Bat Rider Blink Dagger very, very well, and they will smoke up. It will be with Chuan near the Dire Secret Shop, hoping to catch up with Matama Man, but he's already headed back to base.
I mean, he's a long way away from NEWBEE. It doesn't look like anyone else from Liquid need to even go over to the jungle just yet.
That's really smart from Liquid. They scan, they know that Battle Rider's on top. He wasn't in the jungle farming his Blink Dagger, so they assume that they already have his Blink, and knowing that they're gonna move out down.
Well, that helps. The Observer was now going to see Fada coming over towards that small camp and move. He turns around. He wants to jump. And, well, Firefly, Blink, Lasso. Chuan's going to be here as well. They're going to drop the down Serpent Walls if they want the extra damage, but a kick from Jirax. And the silence makes it difficult. Fada still calling on the Firefly. He'll go down with the Magnetize turned on. Karka. Stick Touch will keep him alive, but not for much longer. The walls move forward. And now Matama has just been blocked up by the creep. It was the Centaur that wasn't allowing him forward, but mind control on the back Fireflies finds Chuan. He wants Moo as well. Doesn't have enough damage for that, and he understands this too. So he moves on to a better target. It's Moo as well as KP. The stun from Kuro needs a little bit more damage with the impediment. It could go to work, but still mind control all over the Batrider. But how? In for the Omni Slash. Revenge is swift and just. It is, however, over on Jirax, and how difficult time turns into the spin underneath that tier 2 tower, trying to kill off Kuro, but with the TP support on the way. Fada also wants to try and catch up to him. Mind control right in front. Chikuchi's in front. He's not the healthiest of players. And with the bugs on him, Fada, he's not finding an opening here. NEWBEE will be able to get back out of this.
And the Shadow Shaman just food for the Weaver at this point. Just way too underfarmed in that Shadow Shaman. Really need to get something off the back of the Mass Serpent Lord, but he didn't want to commit it to the Death Prophet. They thought they had him without it.
I'm actually wondering how they even control Mind Control. He's sitting at 5 kills for 1 assist, 0 deaths, but it's the Lincoln Sphere build which is coming in for him. The Batrider jump initiation isn't going to be enough for Moo anymore.
NEWBEE thought it was. They thought it'd be enough with the Shadow Shaman and enough with the Batrider, but it's still
Once the Lincolns is up, then you're in trouble.
And even before that, I think the nice play from Kuro, it doesn't look like they have a defensive support for the way that Kuro has been playing. He is that defensive support to save the Weaver so he can pop his cooldowns. But yeah, well, once he gets that, maybe you get the Omni Slash him into something else.
Well, there's the mindset from how scared to absolute death. Jirax is still sticking around with him. He wants to own this dire jungle. And how can... Well, he has been up in a second. Not quite sure what that run was all about from Jirax, apart from just saying hello.
I think it might force Chuan to lay a sentry ward though.
Sean and Moo are actually going to smoke again. They look up towards the top lane. It's the Weaver. That's the one they look towards. But to get close enough, like, Mind Control's just sitting there. He almost looks like an illusion when he doesn't react.
It's really hard with nighttime. And they don't have to have a sentry.
Well, they put the Obs and sentry on the cliffside instead. And Mind Control is away. KP still having himself a good time on bottom now with the Vanguard up as well as the mech. Level 11, so second point up in Warpath. They can start doing damage towards the towers. Chuan comes in from behind Fada. They need to get some kind of control. Relocate. Gonna bring in KP as well. Master force it down, but the damage from Atonement is just so big. Supplying up with the Magnetize. Fada might burn inside the Firefly, but the damage is so huge from Team Liquid. How will be forced back underneath his own tier 3 tower. Mind Control diving under it to ensure the kill. They want to wipe NEWBEE out here, but KP is just so strong. They'll end up killing off Kuro, but Tumble will TP out. You still got a 2-for-4 trade, however, in favor of Team Liquid.
And they've been ignoring the Bristleback in a lot of these fights, which is the correct solution when you have all these weak heroes in the back line and all of NEWBEE are falling without the Bristleback up in front.
Jirax gonna boulder away. I suppose they know they can get away with farming up a couple of these wards. And Mind Control on the run. He's underneath the Observer and Sentry, hence KP could do that. And by attacking like that, he reveals the fact there is vision there.
They need the Bristleback up in front. He can pop the Lincolns too on the Weaver once they get to that point, but right now NEWBEE are just way too weak if they get focused. Anyone but the Bristleback. And Liquid are doing an extremely good job of killing the Wisp early on in the fights. A nice burst on a Moo, the Yules into the Earth Spirit setup.
How is being stalked so heavily by these two wolves. But yeah, what a hell of a fight in the mid.
And Kuro going in deep on the T3. Oh, you don't want your Bristleback to be alive like this at the end of the team fight.
No. But what are you meant to do against it?
He needs to go up in front. He needs to force them to go on him. He needs to be on top of the Lycan. He needs to be on top of the Earth Spirit, be on top of the Death Prophet. So they have no choice.
What was he relocated in on that, and then they all split up.
Well, it might be better for them to have the Bristleback farm out in really dangerous positions and then relocate with the Juggernaut instead. Because if you relocate with the Bristleback, someone probably already got jumped.
So you make it so Liquid initiate.
Yeah, look at his position right now. Like now he's out in front, so now he will actually get jumped on, which is what they want him to do. But Liquid, they see him, they don't want to go on him at all.
Yep, instead they can find Moo over in the jungle, who's just trying to farm up. He's in Firefly at the moment. There's your silence on Moo, but still the Firefly is going to have a little bit more time. Jirax caught in the trees as Moo will blink himself over. That troll was actually nearby, but it didn't get the trap off, so we fought his Yule Scepter, put him up in the air. Moo will drop back down again, and then quickly munched up by the Lycan.
And they've not been able to do much on the Batrider. 1 and 5 on Moo. They need the Battle Fury up soon on the Juggernaut to deal with the amount of summons that they don't have that much damage. They're having a difficult time bringing down the Death Prophet, even with 4 or 5 heroes focusing him at the start of the fight.
KP's trying to get Liquid to initiate on him. He understands all 5 heroes walking around, so here we go. He'll run himself in close, stance already with Langsung over on Mattelman. Control him whichever way he possibly can. Turn the back, waste the Exorcism. Even with the Spirit Siphon, it's... like, Fada knows he's not really that much of a match for KP at the moment.
But Liquid finally realizing that NEWBEE are in formation with the Bristleback in the front. They cannot take that fight even with Exorcism up.
So NEWBEE gonna... okay, there's a wolf right next to him as KP slips himself into Roshan.
Trying to look up that too.
They should. Oh, they actually... okay, they commit the Mass Serpent Wars. They saw the wolf keel over, so they understand that they were being watched. But up on top lane, Mind Control's attacking into the tier 3 tower, so NEWBEE will be able to take Roshan. Remember, you have yourself, like if Hound moves over the side and TP's back, they can still defend it and then relocate up with KP as well as Kaka. So the tier 3 tower is dropping quickly. Okay, Moose trying to lay this up with the Firefly to say goodbye to tier 3. Here comes the relocate, plus the TPs. KP's the first man in. They instantly posted Kaka down. He will not survive this. Hound needs more damage to get silenced up. He can't get his spin. He can't get the ulti off. The Agency model will burn instantly. Fighter is still low. And with Kaka's buyback, now KP with the cool sprays really starting to stack up here. They're in a little bit of trouble. Mattelman isolated out. Fighter is able to TP out with the Omni Flash. Mattelman is mopped up. Kuro, the Nezuku is on him. The Flame Break will cancel this TP in time. So NEWBEE able to catch up to Kuro. They'll find this kill. They burn the Aegis, the Immortal, but damage is still done at home. The melee racks was lost for NEWBEE.
I'd say about an even throw for both sides. I think you'd be pretty happy to get a melee Rex at this point in the game. But yeah, giving up Aegis and a couple of kills in the process. And Wisp is just not playing very defensively at this point. He like relocated in right on top of the racks and almost got hit by the Earth Spirit stun and then just immediately died.
It was the same problem again though, right? Like you had to come in with a Bristleback, which means you have to relocate to the front lines because that's where he needs to be. Like unless you gave the TP over to KP, but
you can just TP with the Bristleback. He has TP skills.
And then just relocate the Juggernaut to the back lines, so you still get them all back.
They need him there to finish off the Roche with the minus armor from the goo.
Top lane's going to defend, so Fada making sure that NEWBEE just can't force out the top lane and relieve some of that pressure because the melee rack is down. NEWBEE getting the counter ranks route to stop the momentum swing to Liquid. It's very difficult when they have to burn through 3 towers to do it.
And Liquid are committing a lot to the mid-game items. We see the BKB coming out very soon on Death Prophet, Necro 3 coming out on Lycan, but they do have some late-game insurance with the Enchantress almost completely Scepter.
Mind Control, lassoed up, shackled, and then walked down. They really want this kill. Can he timeless? No, he can't. That was actually a real nice couple of control abilities from NEWBEE. They don't have a lot to work with, but they made it happen. And now that's Battle Fury plus the early Basher coming in now for KP.
Very good at locking down that Lycan. Especially in the Weaver, I guess if you get a lucky dash. But he realized that he has to be a threat in team fights. When you go pure tank with Mech and Crimson Guard, unless they focus you and you get a lot of them stacks off, you're not going to be doing that much damage. And Basher at some point will make them focus him down.
So this tier 1 tower looks near death. The Lycan is behind the lines, just trying to farm up his level 3 Necrobook, and Hal's now going to walk up and actually find Mattelman over in the jungle. He potentially could just ulti, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Omni Slash it down. Is it enough damage? No, it's not. Mattelman's still on the run. The Urn Charge got put on him, and Lycan will survive. And the relocate, Liquid know they're coming back, and that's why Fada is moving himself forward. KP makes himself a buff for the troll traps over on Kaka. They really hate that IO. They'll make a break for the tree line, but the Beatles get on the back of him. They need to break Kaka free of this. And with the mech charge, maybe they can survive it. In fact, Mind Control in too deep. The kick will fly through the damage. It's enough. Mind Control will drop before he can get the time lapse off, but now the jump forward from NEWBEE. They're here on the rampage. There's to go over onto Fada. His fuel set was available. Instead, they'll use it over on KP, but removing him from the fight. They still haven't killed off Kaka. Jirax turns on the Magnetize, causing issues, but there's more issues for Liquid as the shackles locking Jirax underneath that tier 1 tower. They're losing heroes left, right, and center. Lose was instantly looking for more as well, but this gives NEWBEE more kills plus this tier 1 tower.
Mind control may be feeling a little bit safe now that Kuro had protected him from so many ganks, but now he just died 2 consecutive times, first feeding his 6. And now maybe they finally found a way to fight.
That they did, and they found their way to an advantage. They are, for the first time in this game, holding the experience advantage. They're still repairing what was a 7.5k lead for Team Liquid net worth-wise, and they just keep going. Mouth Serpent was down. KP, he is the immortal tank right now for NEWBEE. On the front lines all the time, and Liquid are being forced to fight him. This probably been the biggest change of all.
I don't know if they can kite him anymore, though. Now he does so much damage, they can sticky on the targets with a basher that kind of can't. And even the Crimson Guard is posing a lot of problems. They probably would have been able to do a lot more damage to the Wisp, but that Crimson Guard not come out.
But Tumber committed pretty heavily to try and find that kill over a Moo. Necrobox, as well as his shapeshift, doesn't find it. Top tier 1 tower is gone. House finding more and more farm.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
This is just a good time for if you're NEWBEE. We just have to wait for the next Roshan. So that's about 3 minutes potentially away.
I don't think the Lincolns has been that useful for the Weaver. It's good versus Batrider if they're split pushing, but in the middle of a team fight, he's just going to get glued or Omni Slash by the Juggernaut, and both of those will pop it without really any loss to the caster. And Death Prophet almost completing the BKB, but really suffering in the armor department. And this is why KB can just own all of them.
I'm wondering, yeah, if that's the reason why KP's building into the AC and just leaving the Basher as a Bastion, not going for Abyssal or something.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Vanguard. Yeah, well, he has Crimson Guard at this point.
Yes,
I don't think you want Crimson in the Vanguard.
Oh, mind control. Instantly time lapse to get all the way, but Moo! He keeps up with him. The relocate comes in. It's going to be Fada who gets caught out. And mind control will TP back. Fada down for 43 seconds. This momentum is so heavily swinging the way of NEWBEE. Liquid need to stop the bleeding. They still have the melee racks on top. They still have momentum on that lane.
Was the BKB even justified this game on the Death Prophet? What is it particularly good against? It's good against Batrider, but I don't think Shadow Shaman can get to him because he doesn't have a Blink Dagger. I think maybe the Veil build might have been better. A little bit of armor. You can also do a little bit more damage with your Spirit Siphon.
Right now, NEWBEE just have a great combination of both magical as well as physical. Because KP got to that point, he can walk around and just like pump out the damage.
I think they had already shut down the Batrider enough.
Liquid just smoked underneath the Dire Observer Ward in the mid lane.
Don't waste your time.
So NEWBEE are fully aware of what Team Liquid are up to, and because of that, they just take the bottom tower. House waiting for the last hit. Now you'll get it.
And now they just TBKB in into the front, and they cannot go in on that. However, they need to make a move before the next Roche. I think NEWBEE will be very comfortable in taking a fight around there.
And not to mention Hal's getting into a better position, so he's going to have that Manta style. So the control coming in from Georax is negated even further once he can dispel the silence. There's a straight up fight.
Jax does get a D-ward in his own jungle, trying to have the vision superiority in this area.
Well, they have it. Both teams, most of their warding is around Roshan. Liquid put one on the hillside, both at the west and the northeast part of the cliff.
And you'd be one of the few teams that don't pick up a gem this early. Again, very important versus Lycan Wolves, very good against the Weaver, and even more importantly, take down the wards around the Roche pit. But I guess their supporters like to play a little bit greedy, and it's paying off for Shadow Shaman. He was very poor at the start.
Liquid's preparing their push. NEWBEE also preparing to defend. Karka, KP, and Sean all holding hands as they come to the bottom lane. There's no fortification for NEWBEE, so they may just let that tier 1 tower drop. In fact, looks like they don't have any kind of choice. There's still a decent army there for Team Liquid. With KP, the frontliner.
Moo does have an invisibility. He's going to be pretty big for them.
If he can get in close enough. He might also be very concerned there's a sentry ward down somewhere. In fact, there is, sitting right next to KP in the lane.
Oh yeah, Liquid actually saw that with their Observer ward. So maybe trying to bait out Moo.
Moo's walked past the sentry position. In fact, Liquid are just bailing. They don't want to get involved here. In fact, mind control's already back up on that top lane.
But very unfortunately for Liquid, and good for NEWBEE. Roshan's back up.
Quick spawn. And Karka's going to he's into the pit, scouts out Roshan. and now NEWBEE can bring him down fairly quickly.
That observer ward will miss, or that sentry ward will miss that observer ward, so Liquid will still have vision in this area without the aid of the wolves. Another sentry ward dropped, and it will be a miss.
Oh, at least they have their own obs and sentries. Smoke, Liquid did that underneath the dire observer ward. So again, NEWBEE, always aware of Liquid smokes. I think like the last 3 smokes of Liquid have actually been scouted out by observers.
Looks like they're trying to go the long way around, but maybe trying to circumvent that by retreating to the left side. And it'd be far too risky for Liquid to actually go in the roach pit, so NEWBEE just need to bide their time until the smoke pops itself. And Liquid, who can they get the jump on?
I'm waiting for these scans to come out, but then again, you kind of know Moo. Okay, he thinks they're inside the pit. 5 flyers up, and well, where is that jump? They'll trigger the Mantra illusions, now have a bit of a look around. The smoke is already broken for Liquid, so they have to bail out.
And with the BKB and Lincoln's cast onto the Death Prophet, he will be their main damage dealer, although that will leave the Weaver quite vulnerable with just a Dezo.
The ping's coming out about top lane. How has to move up to try and defend and get the momentum back. Kaka actually caught the bottom river. Okay, mind control now with that Desolator up. Does some good damage, and that's 50 seconds. No buyback over on this IO.
They didn't deward that observer ward, and with all those sentries around, you feel safe. You're like, oh, okay, I can probably get this ward.
They've literally got sentries on every single side of this observer ward, but they just can't see it. They're just not close enough.
That's a pretty common spot too.
Fado using illusions. We'll keep their eyes on the pit. 26 seconds until Io is back.
And starting on the Roche. Yeah, they can send in Bristle though if they actually feel scared, or Moo can check in.
That should be really
Oh,
scary.
they see this one, they have to know.
Yeah, they're worried about Moo also with his flame break. If he cliffs anyone here, this is not going to be the dream fight for Team Liquid. There's still 4 inside the pit. Exism committed. Roshan's pretty low. KP walking inside the pit. Roshan, he belongs to the Weaver. The gripping doesn't happen for the flame break. The Moo will drag Fada up on the hill, but with the mass surfboard, they'll isolate him up there. He'll still be up with his Exism, however. This fight's split massively into different pieces. They're trying to get Fada back down again, but he just can't get off the cliff. Maybe with his Spirit Siphon, KP helping to stay alive. There's still no one dead in this entire fight. There's exactly prepping up for KP, but with the kick on Kaka and KP, they can't keep the momentum going. They're all just splitting up. No one's still dead yet. Fada, how is he still up here? He's playing King of the Hill. Now you lose 2. The Jirax, he boulders up and pushes Fada down, buying freedom for his core. But it's mind control who ends up how. They go for more. Moo with the flame break, pushing Fada back. Now KP to start over on Jirax. The stacks are high. Fada trying to isolate here with the Yule Scepter. Mind control. Stunned up. Linkers will break, but he'll time up all the damage. Putting the Scarabeetles back on the back of KP. Moo has to blink away to safety. You got the hunt going off from the Weaver. He's right behind Moo. He's not close enough to get the kill. Moo behind the tower. Mind control. Keep the chase going. Ghost Step will just amplify the damage of mind control. Literally run straight through him like he's absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, up on top lane, the range racks, mind control. 1 hit will do the job, doesn't even need it. The creep wave's there, but it's Chuan inside the base. Ghost Scepter will save him from the Gemate attack. KP has to come back up into defender mind control. He's coming in for round 2. The shackles, maybe too greedy. Time lapse, where is it? 1 second on cooldown. He'll burn the Aegis, but he kills Chuan. Support coming up from the Aya, but KP's the only one here. Mind control from just Akuchi himself away. Pushing the envelope, keeping NEWBEE down. You finish up the top racks. And what a hectic skirmish of a fight around Roshan.
I don't think KP has been playing particularly well this game. Right there, he got to cast Crimson Guard to help out his Shadow Shaman, and I think as soon as his West dies in the pit and you see all of Liquid moving in, you start stacking up the Pearl Spray right as they're inside the pit, and you know you're going to hit them, but he just went in way too late. By the time he went in there, the Aegis was already down. He's just relying way too much on the Battle Rider to make his plays. You have to go in there even without the Wisp. He hasn't died yet this game, but he's playing like he's died like 6-7 times this game.
I'm also wondering if cliffing Fada was the greatest idea ever, because you never got your damage out.
He also went in there to get into range of the Spirit Siphon. He would have died had he not gotten Spirit Siphon off onto the Bristleback.
2 melee heroes, and the hero you want to kill off ends up on a cliff. Trouble. Now NEWBEE back to be aggressive.
And now Aerosphere has a sick roll in the kick Fada off.
That was pretty slick. Alright, so NEWBEE You're grouping up again around this bottom lane. AD's your frontliner. But meanwhile, how? Team Liquid just found the opening. There's buyback on the Juggernaut. They still have the issue that the tier 2 towers are making it so they can't just slip themselves in through the top and take out the mid-rank. So NEWBEE, the question is, do they try and defend? Radiant use their scan to try and see if NEWBEE are rotating up from the Radiant jungle. And NEWBEE go the long way around, which also brings underneath that observer ward of Team Liquid. They're going to see NEWBEE back next to their own tier 2 on bottom.
And why have NEWBEE still not picked up a gem? I think they've needed one for a really long time. I don't think any of that would have happened. The Wisp wouldn't have died had they not had vision on him. And NEWBEE's still very reluctant to invest just at 900 gold.
If they finally got rid of that damn observer ward, commit 4 sentries, find no ward. So Liquid. Necro's coming back off cooldown soon. So is the shapeshift. Kuro's already walking around with his Aghanim Scepter, pumping out terrible points of damage, and you actually get a Shiva's Guard over on Death Prophet. You said Fado was having issues with armor. Not anymore.
And NEWBEE have not really been able to make use of the relocate. Ideally, you like have a Shadow Shaman who can like blink Hex, drop wards, throw shackles, and then into a relocate, or a Bat Rider who can blink Lasso. But they've been just far too behind to make those sort of jumps and make full use of the IO.
And NEWBEE's still in a point where they can force the lane. Like, KP is still a beast. Can they just push him on the front line and play behind him? Like, attack the tier 3 towers?
I don't think so. If they attack the tier 3s, then they can easily wrap around. There's like 4 or 5 points of initiation that they can just jump to Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman does not have blink. He has Ghost Scepter, but that won't keep him alive for that long.
And it won't when you go to Diffusal Blade over on Mind Control. These Ghost Scepters don't protect you from anything. But Mind Control is almost at a point where he'll buy up a new item. He's sitting at 3.7k gold over on this Weaver. The courier is actually coming up to pick up the rest of the Assault Cuirass.
Yeah, just imagine if Micro gets a BKB. He can just run rampant in these fights. There's no way that they can kill him. Any sort of physical damage he can just time-lapse off. And he can just kill the Shadow Shaman before the BKB pops off. The Wisp as well.
Liquid are coming again. Just around the front of Roshan. Okay, they don't really find the Tiger they're searching for him. With the pressure being applied to the tier 2 tower by How, they don't want to get involved. So in fact, How just uses it like, okay, Liquid TP back, sure, spin safely to the TP to the tier 2 on bottom lane. It's a creep wave and a half coming up that way. But you're pumping all this money into the Juggernaut. What item does he get which really changes this fight? Like, does he actually have to go into control? Should he be the Abyssal Blade kind of guy?
No, that's Bristle's job. Bristle already has AC in the Basher, so I think he can just go more survivability.
So how does How build?
You don't necessarily want a Scotty versus Death Prophet because of HP, but I think he might need it. It gives him a little bit of additional armor, and versus the pure damage from Enchantress, I think he needs HP to tank up. It's also just really nice with the healing ward, and he's generally not getting tethered by the Wisp. What other item? Butterfly I think is pretty good too.
Yeah, well, lineup. Well, then again, you could get the Monkey King Barret from my control, but instead he's going for a heart. So, okay, NEWBEE needs so much damage.
Yeah, I think Butterfly's the item for him.
We'll find out if he agrees in just a bit. But now everything's just starting to simmer until NEWBEE are ready to come back out. They group up as 4 inside their own base. A couple of fresh 4-stomps over for both the Enchantress as well as for Chuan. So each team getting a little bit more maneuverability in the next fight.
They're getting stalked by wolves, at least for the most part. And looks like a 4-man smoke, 3-man smoke. 3-man.
Oh, Liquid. Choice can at least get someone like their high ground vision up. That's why NEWBEE also did a lane ward, a prep ward for this fight. They don't want to let Liquid have this tier 2 tower easily, but Liquid, they wrap around the side. Now, NEWBEE does not have a defensive ward for this, but they are smoked up behind the tower. Here comes the Lycan Wolf. So we'll have a bit of a peek in behind the tier 2. Not see any heroes, but this smoke, it'll last for another 5-ish seconds. But they'll know something is wrong because top lane is just forcing in so hard.
Even though they didn't get a good engage, they still got 2 really good observer wards plopped down by Jerex, throwing that. And NEWBEE, they don't have sentries, and they have eyes on a Shadow Shaman pinging him out.
Oh, no Chuan. The KP, he forced off, they push him into the fight. He turns his back pretty quickly, wants to evade the front, but Chuan, he's done, kicked around, silenced up, the med catch comes off. NEWBEE need to survive this if they want to win the game, but they can't really do it. Started triggers his BKB all over him. Atomic locked in by the last two, but it's not enough damage. How? Now into the Omni Slash. The damage is splitting up because they're just so close in for the spin. He'll get himself away. The stone's there from KP, and now still double kill for Fada. The Exodus has done some serious lifting in this fight. The KP wants to keep going. You've got Tasha, blasted up. Can they hold him there? Fada's dropping low, 4-star up. He's almost down, but he's not down yet. How? Explodes right behind him. KP can't keep up, and now it's 4 Liquid players around KP. He'll start the TP, but unsuccessful. KP is dropping quickly, and NEWBEE, they'll be wiped. And this should even be potentially the game. You've only got buyback over on this Bristol back. Liquid are coming in to take out that mid-rack if possible. The tier 2 tower and bottom is going to follow the creep wave momentum anyway.
Yeah, Mind Control is just able to get in those back lines and drop all those Ghost Scepters. I think he used 4 or 5 diffuser play charges there, and everyone just dropped. And yeah, they can just ignore the Bristol back at this point.
They'll love that low cooldown.
A nice play from Fada, dishing out a ton of damage and getting, he like gets low enough to the point where NEWBEE want to go on something.
They want to try and get some extra kills. Instead, it's the Yule Scepter. Moo finds himself into a deep. KP also stunned up. Swan, he's locked with a Spirit Cypher. He can say goodbye to the Shaman. KP looking for the revenge on Mind Control, but Mind Control right in the back of Tarka. Tries to tether away, can't do it. The last who's there from Moo, Mind Control still alive at the moment. And Pilot of all the damage. They've lost too much. The damage is too great. They are bleeding out right now, NEWBEE. Liquid are all over him. And they can keep pushing through if they want to. That tier 2 is still up on bottom lane, but you won't really care once they take out this mid-melee rack. KP is desperately scrambling defense to Juggernaut up in 6 seconds time. But Liquid aren't leaving. The bottom tower is taken out by the like, and they're pushing for Megas. And here comes the Tumbleman. Necro is looking to go GG. NEWBEE will accept it. We'll have ourselves a decider between NEWBEE as well as Team Liquid to decide who will go through to the Villa Major Grand Final.
In both games, the safe lane for the losing team was just way too weak. This game, just the Enchantress and the Weaver were able to crush both of NEWBEE's heroes, and without the Lion, they're hard-pressed to find a good substitute for that hard lockdown for Chuan.
Yeah, but that line was banned down so early on, and it really was something like, and you were seeing it halfway through the drive.